Hi, Eric.
First comment when he's in, Eric. Hey, welcome in to In the Know with Steph and Joe. In the Know with Steph and Joe brought to you through the financial support of our good friends over at Restoration One. I've been repping them all day.
We appreciate that.
Even got the orange shoes on. And of course, Steph's books. At Steph's bookkeeping, she's awesome. She keeps books. We found that out on the other shows. Like, what does a bookkeeper
what do you do? I keep books.
Today, I love the advertisement. Emergencies, right? Yeah. And
This advertisement?
Yeah, throwing up a little 216.
Yeah, there you go.
Little swagger.
Little swag on me.
Emergencies. Welcome in, guys. Good week.
Great week. Yeah. Did you have any emergencies? You guys have any emergencies that you had to deal with this week? Personal, business, otherwise? What did we say were the four?
So you have employee emergencies, business emergencies, personal emergencies, and client emergencies. Right? Or did I say client twice?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Business being like anything within your business. Really,
like for me, it would be like if my internet went down. That would be an emergency situation for me to try and get either my hotspot activated or we'd have to go like to another location to work.
For the sake of
I'm sorry, you're what activated?
Hotspot.
Hey.
Different spot.
Oh.
Yeah. There's really three areas: personal, business, and client, right? But business includes employees, but we're pulling employees out in this sense because there's just so much that you could unpack with employee emergencies, right? So client emergencies, let's start with those. I think that's one of the easiest. If you get a client that has an emergency or they think it's an emergency.
Well, for you, that's your whole business.
Well, yeah. I mean, literally.
Well,
I've got an emergency. Oh, yeah. You think it is.
It's an emergency.
There's 8 feet of water in my basement. No. It's not an emergency.
Wait, is the water coming out of the basement? No. You're fine.
It's isolated in the basement. It's good.
You're good. Right. You're good. We still got some time. Did the water stop flowing? Oh, you got days now.
Just open the basement door.
Open a window. It'll be fine.
Open a window. Let the breeze through. Well, our client emergencies, yes. All right. There's some where people are like, this is an emergency. Come, please. I need you to come out. Emergency, 9:00 call at night. They need you out because they found a spot of mold in their basement, covered underneath a bunch of mouse poop and, like buried in a bunch of dust and cobwebs and whatever. And they
1970s Time magazines.
Pretty much. Yeah. Right. And they're the ones that are covered with mold. And they're like, I need you to get rid of this. Like it's affecting my health. And I'm like, well, do you have any ill health effects? Like any allergy? No.
How long have you been living in the house with these said magazines?
Yeah, right. There are certain emergencies where they're not emergencies. Yes, we have clients that call that truly have emergencies. But I don't know what would a bookkeeping emergency be?
I mean, we have some clients that are, prepping to maybe get a loan and they need financial documents sooner rather than later so they don't lose their lock rate. We have clients that are about to go through an audit. We have clients that are about to sell. But some of these things, I feel like you procrastinated and now your emergency is going to become my emergency. And when that stuff happens, then there's the emergency rate. I'm sure you guys have like the middle of the night rate versus the daytime rate.
Holiday rate or whatever.
Absolutely.
So I don't like when people make their emergency my emergency. But when we have clients that are going through things or potential clients that are going through things, we will do our best to get them, expedited and
like
on the schedule.
An uncontrolled disaster has happened that now your client has to reach out to you for something quickly and it becomes an emergency, right? I mean, I can imagine if like in the housing industry, somebody's all of a sudden like, you don't plan to move and do it at the last minute, but let's say you got a job transfer or right, like, and you're moving towns or something like that. You got to up and move your house, right? So there's emergency moving or whatever you may need to get your house on the market and get it sold quickly, so that way you can go ahead and buy another one wherever you're landing quickly. In my mind, there's those kind of emergencies are not something you can control, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we ever really have like a true emergency in bookkeeping. It's not like the IRS just shows up on day one and is coming to like take all of your assets and garnish your bank account and all that. That's like 17 letters, 17 phone calls, 3 office visits. Like there's a whole process that you've gone through.
Right.
Like, this is coming. They send you a letter that says, hey, if you don't respond by this day, we're going to garnish your account.
Right.
So so I feel like for me specifically, I don't think like we necessarily have true emergencies with clients. It'd be very rare because there's a lot of notice.
Well, I mean, with outside of like paramedics, right, or restoration people.
Even
right.
So, I was just going to say, even us, we're not true emergencies.
Yeah.
The water should be stopped flowing. Right now, it's draining water, which we got to get done. Yes, we have work to do, but it's not like, I have to. If I don't do my job in the next hour, you could lose your like a firefighter,
right,
paramedic, right, police.
But that's why I like what Steph said. Is their emergency doesn't need to be your emergency, because a lot of times it's not. It's it's just that they don't understand.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's like, no, yeah.
Or they procrastinated and
correct.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of banking as well, and I mean, an emergency might be you're on vacation and your debit card doesn't work, and you need one, or you lost one, and you need one. Now, I could see that as an emergency, but there's a way around it. But it's still going to take a day or two for us to to do whatever. Right?
What if you want to make banking? I guess for us, there was an emergency, which this kind of ties in. This actually now I guess would turn into the business emergency.
Yeah.
When we had those big freezes, we needed a lot of capital up front to be able to keep our employees paid and rent equipment or whatever we needed to do. We had to have a line of credit. We used our line of credit, right? And because we had that, we were able to knee jerk in that emergency and pay for that stuff up front. Or whatever.
But you guys,
we set that up, right? Prepared. But somebody could be coming to you and going, I need a line of credit right now because I need to do this X, Y, and Z to make my business more successful or grow, or I have this opportunity, and if I don't get this amount of money, I can't take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why if that's why as a business owner, if you see something on the horizon where there's a growth opportunity, and you're like, maybe if I close this, I'll need the line of credit. But if I don't close it, it's whatever. But there's no harm, no foul in just running your credit and having it as the oh shit money. And if you close the deal and you need it, cool. It's already there and established. But if you don't close the deal, it can just sit there and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't help you. It's just there. But you waiting until that ink is dry on the paper to then start that process and not even know if you'll even qualify, that's where your problem runs in. And then now your emergency becomes the bank's emergency.
Totally.
Eric just says, of course, he is the owner of Eater Technology. So we'll give his business a quick shout out. But he just says, the IRS keeps calling him. That's an emergency, isn't it? What he did is he did give them his social security number and date of birth just to make sure to confirm they are who they say they are.
Eric, we don't know this is you, so we'd like you to give us your social security number as well, so we can confirm that it's you.
Yeah, actually, Eric, if you gave it to them and you didn't say dash, it's probably fine. But if you put the dashes in there, like 1, 2, 3 dash, 1, 2 dash, yeah. Without the dashes, I don't think it's legal.
Oh, well, hey, you're good to go then. All set, I guess. Did you give your mother's maiden name with that? Just making sure. Proper spelling of your mother's maiden name.
And your elementary school. All right. So, but a business can have emergencies.
Right. I mean, I'm sure that Eric deals with business emergencies, especially when people click the link,
Oh,
and then he has to dive in and clean that stuff up and get access, get data back, get
Oh,
files back,
gosh, I
get
can
control
just imagine.
back.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Eric has experienced that
Guy
with
got some good stories.
the link clickers.
Link
But Joe, I mean,
clickers.
what is a business emergency for you?
But what I described was having capital to take advantage of.
Okay.
Right, like that's one of the biggest ones, was just making sure that we know we have the money to handle a job. Because as a contractor, most contractors are able to collect money up front partially, right? Because they're planning out their job. Ours is emergency, so we're going in saying, hey, all right, sign here. Here's an estimate of what we think it's going to be, but you may have insurance cover this, so we can't expect money from you up front. So we don't collect a dime up front.
So define a business emergency.
I mean,
in my mind,
Right.
mind, a business emergency would be something like you have a vehicle that breaks down.
Okay.
Right? You
Yeah.
have a vehicle you rely on a daily basis, and it breaks down, or a computer that breaks down, right? It doesn't, it could be caused by clicking a link that whatever, but it doesn't have to be. It could be anything. It could be.
I would imagine a business emergency is anything that would prevent you from operating at normal capacity.
Snowstorm.
So if there's something that happens, like I said, like if the internet goes down for me, we're kind of screwed temporarily because everything we do is cloud-based.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have ways and access. I mean, I could leave here and go home, and I have a computer at home, and hopefully my internet's working at home. So that would be very problematic for me, or
Pretty much a huge one for me.
right.
Internet radio station.
Kind of the big thing.
Kind of a big thing. Yeah. So I'm thinking that it's a loss of revenue. It's a loss of something, right? So I'm thinking of Joe's business, where, oh my gosh, a fire or a pipe break at your actual place of business, because you do storage as well.
Yes,
that would be like a huge emergency.
That would be an emergency. Yeah. Yes. But I mean, that's what it's tough, because like that's what we deal with. That'd be like saying like, oh, you have a show that you have to put on.
Yeah.
That's not an emergency. That's your job.
Right.
Like you have a show to put on. That's not.
But Ken's talking like if your building
we dry things out. That's part of our job.
Like if your building went on fire and all those contents that you guys have in your warehouse.
I have insurance for that.
Right. I mean, I have insurance. I have cyber insurance.
Moment,
I have.
You'd be like, oh,
right. It would be a very bad day. Like, how do you even call people and tell them some of that stuff? Some of that stuff is like important to them.
I guess I just have a different mindset of emergency.
Hey, Carrie, I need you to make some calls.
No, Carrie would be the one making. Yeah, Carrie would be the one making the calls, and she would know. I don't know. I just look at those kind of things differently, I guess, since we see those so often. It's just part of our job.
So what I'm hearing, and I love about you guys, is what I'm hearing is proper planning and put it in place.
Proper planning prevents piss poor.
Yeah. So there's really no emergencies with proper planning.
Proper planning prevents piss poor.
Yeah, so
performance.
Eric just says, hey, we had a local business owner come to us because they came into the office after a long weekend to a foot of water in the basement of their business. Their server was sitting on the floor in the water, and they didn't have a recent backup.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Yeah, I feel like that would be like a bad day all around.
That's an emergency, I would guess.
That's an emergency from a client that they didn't put off. Well, they put off backing it up, so that becomes now an emergency. But if they backed it up properly, not an emergency.
And then not a bad plan.
I mean, it could not be necessarily emergency, but like sometimes you overschedule your day and you're trying to get to everything. So it's kind of, you're scattering to try and get all of these things accomplished, and you're just rushing. But I don't know. I just feel like a lot of the business related emergencies, like if you're an owner and you properly have insurance, you have, like for us, after I clicked the link, we made sure that all of everything that we have has two-step verification active. So anytime I
Mhm.
log into any of my softwares, any of my emails, any of anything, even if it's on my computer in my office, I have the little code that's sent to my phone to
Yeah.
do the two-step verification on everything. So I feel like there's things that we could put in place to prevent this from being a problem. But I feel like a lot of the things are going to come from the employees
Mm.
and being able to execute. Because, like, for example, if
Mhm.
let's say Monday, one of my employees called in and I have work that I have to do, my other employees work that they do, but we promised clients a deliverable on this day. So then
yeah, right.
how do you get that accomplished? Do you have, I mean, like, obviously I would just work extra hours and I would just get it done, or I would call people and reschedule some stuff, but
I mean,
know,
and
it's
that's where I think employees are tough sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends on the employee too, or what they're doing. Like, you know, a good employee, if they were to call in and be like, "Hey, I'm sick," I could still work from home, right? Like for you, I could dial in from home. You want me to work from home?
yeah, but I mean, like, I'm
Right?
not mad if any
No,
of
no,
them
no, I
ever
know
call
that.
in. I'm just saying that it's just sometimes a surprise when you like wake up and you're
Yes.
like, okay, like, let's
Yeah.
get the day going, and then somebody
Ta-da!
calls
I
in.
can't come in. I have we have an employee who he lost his, what did he say? What did Eric say?
He says the worst thing was their insurance didn't cover the flood or restore of the back of their
data.
Something about being an act of God.
Ooh.
Well, insurance doesn't cover flood.
Don't you have to pay extra for flood insurance?
Yep. So, and
So
most
you can
policies,
have insurance cover flood.
Well,
So
you
they must
can,
not
but
have.
that's a separate policy.
Well,
So, yeah, some policies will cover water in the basement depending on where it came from. So the
call my guy Jeff Young. He'll take care.
Yeah, the act of God part is probably because they exclude all water except for broken pipes and maybe sump pump coverage,
Well, I
which is
guess
all human made and maintenance. So
that's good to know then. So if we have a broken pipe, and so if I go downstairs and the basement's flooded and there's no broken pipe, you're
start
saying
smashing pipes.
It's a broken pipe.
I mean, don't do that. Don't do that.
What I meant to say.
What I meant to say was
Asking for a friend.
So my friend needs to know.
But it's just, yeah, I mean, I feel like most of the business related emergencies are going to be more, for me, is going to be more employee based.
Yeah, something that stops revenue.
Like, yeah, I mean, like if something happened and I don't know.
Ours would be weighed between employees,
a pandemic breaks out,
or equipment.
Right.
Stops you from.
I
Yeah.
mean, we were considered an essential, so we didn't stop. But some of our clients were considered non-essential, so we, once the shelter and stay went in place, we just emailed those non-essential clients and we discounted their services drastically because they still had some things going on that we needed to work and manage.
Yeah.
So we didn't wait for them to call us. We called them. But that was just it's just a customer service thing. That's not really an emergency thing. But.
Which, gosh, we have one employee that he lost his phone. This was recently, within the past like 2 or 3 weeks. I think while we were in Florida, I think, when this happened, and he lost his phone. And he actually went through and like bought a new phone, was trying to download all the apps already that we use for our services and our software and everything. He was already calling people, figuring out his schedule, getting back onto like doing everything. He just needed help like re-downloading the apps. And it was awesome because he was so proactive about it, right? Like there's those great employees that he's just, oh man, lost my phone. Boom, got another phone, doing this, doing that. Hey, I just need your help to get, like, instead of calling us and being like, hey, I can't come into work, I lost my phone. No, he's like, hey, I'll be in. I might be a couple minutes late. I got a new phone, didn't know when oh no, he was early. He was supposed to be in at 8 and he was there at like 7 or 7:30 because he couldn't remember what time he had to be there. So he just got there the earliest he knew he would have to work.
Oh, speaking of phones and employees, I feel like this is kind of a suspicious situation. When I worked in the pool world, we had an employee and we added a couple jobs at the end of his day. And then all of a sudden he his phone got smashed in the door of his truck. And so he didn't get the extra jobs, and he came back to the shop with but his phone was legitimately smashed. I feel like it wasn't a coincidence.
More jobs? Wham! I'll show you more jobs.
I feel like it was a very, very weird, because who closes their phone in a door
Without hitting your hand.
like how is that
that
even
to me is
possible?
is how do you get it without getting your hand or your fingers, right?
He had it on he said he put it on his bumper, and we had the doors that would open to the vans, like those.
Yeah.
And then he slammed the door, and the phone was on the bumper.
It
was very,
plausible.
very weird, though, right?
That is
Convenient timing.
right.
I mean, when I worked in the swimming pool world, they had more client emergencies because, when we got massive rain, and the pools would be
Like overflowing.
overflowing. But then the problem is that their whole backyard is flooded too. So
Where are you going to drain the water?
yeah, it's just we're draining it back into the yard that's then flowing back into the pool.
Hey, Marcia. Marcia says, my niece actually used your services and is so grateful for the help.
She's talking about our services.
Yeah,
That's why she said your services.
Well, I didn't know if she was talking to
well,
your services.
clearly, if you recognize,
I know
the
who she
name,
is. Yes, I know whose
you,
services.
Joe.
The emergency on that one was they were raining in their house was raining inside.
Whoops.
Yeah, oops, frozen pipe. So again, once the water stops, it's like, all right, now it's just a job, right? If you don't stop the water, then it's an emergency. You got to emergency stop the water. Then it's a job to us, right? It's like you balancing somebody's books. It's like you airing a show, it's like, to me, I look at those kind of things differently, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like an emergency to you, but to them at the time, they're like, oh my God, we're going to lose everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Where, I guess, I look at emergencies different in that sense, but.
So what about personal emergencies? So you as the owner, if you get called out on a personal emergency, then is there a protocol or something within your company where everybody just know, if you and Carrie called in tomorrow because you had to do something, is there a process in place of who's in charge and what happens next?
Yes. We have people in charge of the different divisions that run our company, that operate our company. So yes, people are in charge. And then for the most part, what we do could be done over the phone or, networking. Hopefully the people that you network with are going to understand that you got an emergency, right? I had somebody pass away this past year in my family. I think Carrie did as well, where she had something come up where we both took a trip on a whim where we were like, I got to go, right? I got to go to this and do this. And so it was, we were able to fill each other's shoes. So it wasn't too hard to make those swings.
Right. It's hard. It would be hard if, it would be something perhaps catastrophic in the family if both of you were out at the same time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Right. Yeah, exactly. And then,
but your team, would they carry on?
Yeah, because our schedule is mapped out for a whole month. So they pretty much know
where to fill in
what they're doing. And then so they don't need me necessarily every minute of the day. So they know that. And then they know, but if I text them on the fly, I'm like, hey, this customer's blowing up my phone. Can you call them or can you email them or this is or that? They just jump in and handle it. So, and then Melanie has access to rearrange the schedule if need be for her and or Valerie. So we have stuff in place. If I had to dip out on the fly or something, they would be able to do whatever. Do you
ever have a backup plan if somebody's starting a brand new show and you're if we were to start a new show on, Sundays at 2 a.m. Right. And you were to plan to be here, but and if we weren't to show.
The neighbor down the hall, she's pretty good.
You don't say.
So and that's why kind of we're putting in that because now, hey mom,
hi mom,
hi mom.
The idea now is we want to kind of transform it to say and teach people you produce your show. You know what I'm saying? So the new people coming in, we can watch who comes and goes. and
Yep.
we do a training,
Yep.
and then we're good. So, the emergency then might be I can't get into the studio.
Right.
The lock doesn't work.
Right.
You
Or
know?
I'm the computer
Right.
issues. I can't dial in.
Right.
It kicked me out
So then
or
I would,
whatever.
and I live 1.5 miles away, so I'll just be like, all right, I'll be right over.
Yeah, but you have a pretty good like network of people that you've already trained on the stuff, and
Yeah.
then if you have like a
Yeah,
spare
between Drew-
key holder and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, between Drew, Mike, Coach, myself, yeah,
Mhm.
You.
yeah,
Yeah.
know, yeah, like a lot of times, my 9 to 5, I can't be here on a Wednesday afternoon,
Right.
so I just kind of have everything set up for that show, the questions you never thought you could ask in church, and they come on in and take care of it, know how to turn on, shut down, away they go.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had a personal emergency where you've gone completely like off grid for several hours being a business owner? Or have you always
Man camp.
I was gonna say
That's
I
not an
have a plan.
emergency.
I have a planned one. It's not an emergency.
Right.
Well, it is an emergency. I need to get off
Yeah.
grid fast
Yeah.
and now.
But I mean, like, have you ever like
man camp? That as soon as you said off grid, I thought the exact
Yeah.
same thing you
Man
did.
camp.
Man
but I
camp.
mean, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, have you ever like had to go like off grid and you're just like completely unreachable due to an emergency? Like, have you ever had like I've never not really since I started Steph's books, like anytime I've ever had like a little personal situation, I've had like I'd say like 97% of the time my clients have been very understanding
Mhm.
if I had to push something back or move something or just give me a little bit extra, like give me an hour because I have to get through this and then I can get back in front of my computer or
So really, when Uncle Pete passed, right?
Mhm.
There was that kind of oh shit moment. And
Yeah.
he took care of a lot of things here, and it was right around Thanksgiving, and I was out of town. So I had to just say, get in touch with people, say, sorry, we got to run a rerun. We can't have new content rolling
Yep.
on that time because I've got to try to figure this out. So it's really probably 2 weeks that I just was like, I had to take a deep breath and go, that's a business emergency, right? And,
right.
Business,
and
personal.
that was the second time it happened to me.
You
But then-
should.
How
Third time you should have it figured out.
I'll tell you.
But how do you feel like when you're having an emergency and you tell one of your so like for example, like when Uncle Pete passed,
Mhm.
if I couldn't run my show that week and you're telling me this and obviously Uncle Pete and I had a good
Mhm.
relationship as well. And what if I wasn't understanding? And I was just like, no, like I paid, I want my show,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do this and that. Like I just feel like sometimes
I would have found a way to make it work.
like I just feel like sometimes
That's just who I
people
am.
like it's just very weird sometimes to me. Like if I said like, oh, I'm going to a funeral and I tell my client that I'm going to a funeral and then they still continue to blow up my phone while I'm at the funeral and then they're like like I haven't really, thankfully, knock on wood, I haven't had that happen yet, but
Mhm.
I mean I had an old boss where I was literally at a funeral and he was blowing up my phone to order a box of tile that he could have just for as many times as he called me, he could have called the vendor himself.
Right.
Like he's like, I'm en route to go pick up this tile. Like you could have just so I had to step out of the funeral and go. I mean, I didn't have to,
Well,
but
at
I
least it wasn't
did.
yours. That's good.
But I didn't. I mean, I didn't have to obviously
It
step
would have
out.
been
But
if you didn't order that time.
Oh, hey.
but like you know what I mean. Like I just feel like, do you feel some type of way like when you tell somebody that you're in the middle of an emergency and it's a legitimate emergency and they're just like completely like glaze over it and just don't care?
I've had that
Mhm.
happen.
Like I take it,
Yeah, I've
like
had
I
that
kind of
happen.
like find it to be very like annoying.
It's very annoying.
And then like I don't know if I
Then I
want them
get
as a
pissed.
client anymore after that because like
Because I'm in a stressful situation anyway. Then I just get pissed. And I
Right.
get short. And I'm like,
but I just feel like it's not
Like
like
short
anything that
or-
is like going
not
on
Steph
is
short, just
Stuff, not stuff short. Just
but I'm just saying like I don't think there's anything going on that like you couldn't just give me like a couple hours.
right.
Like
Right.
I mean at least in my industry.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I was gonna say in most industries, a couple hours or even 24 hours a day
Right.
is like something that's totally should be doable,
Right.
by anybody. Yeah, when I would go out on my guys' trips or whatever, when I was in insurance, my boss would call me, my team boss would call me, and he would be, I need this. Where's this? Where's that? We weren't even ordering from a vendor. He literally just wanted to know where things were in files.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So literally, I'm like, I just ignored him. And when the first time I went on the trip, he's like, why didn't you answer this? Why didn't you answer that? I got like this whole, 2,700 emails from him. From here on out, dude, just recognize I don't get any service, period. I'm off grid. That's it. That's it.
But I just feel like if you're taking the time off and you're using vacation time or PTO time, then there should be that respective boundary.
Should be.
Like I don't
Should be.
contact my staff after hours.
Right. But to that guy at that time, it was an emergency. I needed to know what,
Right. Where's this?
Yeah.
In the file. Did you look in the file? I eventually I started this. Literally, he's the reason I stopped in that industry. But I literally would start replying, did you look in the file? Enter. Send that email. Did you look in the file? Enter. Send that email.
Yeah.
Oh, there was some time.
Does anybody else out there, though, have like personal emergencies, business emergencies, client emergencies, like proper protocols and things that you have in place when said emergency happens? We'd like to know so we could share it with all the other small business owners listening besides just
like
me and Joe's
emergencies.
wacky policies that we have in our offices.
Well, and my thing too is, what kind of protocols you have to prevent those emergencies as well, right? Like not for when they come, but maybe to try and prevent them as well.
But how do you like tell somebody in a polite way that their emergency is not an emergency? I feel like you would have to do that the most out of all of us, right? Or Carrie would have to do it. Where's Carrie?
Well,
tell her to call in.
Yes. Well, we still treat people as though their emergency is an emergency, right? Because that's only the best way to do it. They feel that it is, and their house is under, water.
Yeah.
They might actually feel it's an emergency. And time in our business is important for getting to work because that does save a lot of material and construction and reconstruction and all that. So, but I don't know. You just gotta
because
talk
I know
calmly to them, right? Like just, hey.
Well, you said before that you guys have like a priority board in your office. Like when things are like during certain times of the season when it's really like there's true emergencies going on, like when we had like the negative 35 degrees recently,
We're not,
and it broke some pipes and whatever and stuff like that. Those people kind of took priority over somebody that maybe had some mold or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
So like, how do you like tell them in a polite way where they don't feel like you're lessening their emergency? Like I haven't found a good way to do it. I think I feel like I come off like an asshole every time. So that's why I'm asking if there is like a way.
Maybe it's just because you are an asshole.
I mean, probably, but
I would say, I think that one of the biggest things that we that Josh and Carrie will do is to say to them, hey, you know how we had this remind them, hey, you know how we had these recent frozen really cold weather. We're dealing with a lot of frozen pipes. You know what I mean? Those we're trying to get to, whatnot. And then we'll suss out on a per account basis, what is their actual deadline, right? Like most of the time, if somebody's asking us to come and clean attic mold, it's due to the sale of their home. All right. When's your closing date?
Yeah.
Right now we know what our actual window time frame is. Not, hey, I need you to come clean attic mold this week. Well, when's your closing? 2 months. We got some time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I guess whatever is done is done at this point.
It's not like it's going to change and not only that, but in 2 months, or a month and a half, we're going to be warmer weather. Our product's going to work better and we don't have to charge as much because we have to put a heater in your attic right now to get our products to work because that has to get that attic up to a warm enough temperature.
Right.
So less work in the future.
So what would you and Carrie do then? Like, let's say you guys had a mass walkout and you lost 50% of your staff.
Oh man.
Like in a busy season. Because when I worked
stop taking jobs.
When I worked at a job, we there was a mass walkout of 50%, about 50%, maybe 40% of a whole division. Right before the busy season was about to kick off. And so we walked out and we thought the company was going to crumble. because
But it didn't.
like that. Yeah, they didn't even skip a beat. Like you would like if it wouldn't have made the newspaper, like nobody would have known that happened. Like I don't know how they pulled it off, but they pulled it off. Like it's like they either saw it coming and they had a bunch of like temps on standby or something, or we weren't as valuable as we thought in our minds. Like
you guys were the problem.
You know what I mean?
You cut
like,
off the tumor yourself.
Right. Like they're like, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
But it's just like, you know, like because like if Valerie and Melanie came in tomorrow and they're like, we're out. Like,
Right.
Thanks, but no thanks, we're out. Like I would be like so screwed. And it would be like I don't even know really what I would do. I probably would just leave town for a few days. Like I don't even know what I would do.
Ostrich your head into a sandbag.
Buy a ticket to Hawaii and then refund it.
No, she already did that once and hasn't gotten her money back. So she'd wait for her money back, then she'd buy the ticket to Hawaii, then she'd get it refunded again.
But you know what I mean? Like if you guys had like half your staff walk out tomorrow, like it would be like a tough recovery, wouldn't it? Especially like during like a semi-busy season.
I think anybody getting half your staff walking out it's going to be tough no matter what. Yeah. Yes,
but
it would be tough no matter what. We would have to make some major changes. Other people, you know, the people left in the company would have to step up, right? But first and foremost, I think as an owner, you got to look at your company and go, all right, we have to dial back our ability, like what we're taking in as a business, right? We can't say yes to 27 jobs. We have to say yes to 10 jobs now,
right?
Until we get back in order, right? Like, I guess you're going to get shook up. It's how do you bounce back,
right? Because it's just like
immediately start hiring.
Immediately start
hiring.
Anybody that shows up for an interview, you'd be like, yep,
yep, you're in. Come on, let's go.
Yep.
Get in the door.
You got steel-toed shoes, you're in.
Yeah. You showed up with pants on, you're in.
But it's just, like I just feel like it just gets like for us, like we're kind of on the grow and we've been trying to hire for the last couple months and we've been having some difficulties and struggles with that. And it's like, thankfully, with the way that I schedule myself, I'm able to pick up some of the slack, and Valerie and Melanie pick up some stuff. But it's just like, how do you like maintain that?
So, emergency, Merriam-Webster, defines as an unforeseen combination of circumstances or the resulting state that calls for immediate action. So, yeah. Losing half your staff, that's probably
hire people
immediately for immediate action.
Yep.
Right. Well, you know, because like I know another company that I know, if like a team calls in and they need to have these trucks on the road, they have like a temp agency on retainer, and within an hour there's people.
Yeah.
I don't know the quality of the people.
I was just going to ask that. My question would be, how good are those people that I can't send people out to do our work. I can't send 2 people out that are from a temp agency to do our work.
I think it's more the people that do like the job site cleanup and stuff, like
demo.
Right, like the miscellaneous stuff that doesn't require training and certificates. I think that they have them come and do that. Or at least sometimes, sometimes when you have a truck that goes down and you just have a body that shows up, it just pacifies the client long enough to get like the proper people in place. Because like when I worked in the swimming pool industry, we had a client that their daughter was having a wedding at their house that day, and then their pool light wasn't working for nighttime swimming, and I guess it was a thing, and I didn't have anybody, and so I didn't know what to do, so I just grabbed a screwdriver and a light bulb and went to said house, and I got in their pool. And I turned off the breaker or whatever. And like, I had one of the technicians kind of like on speakerphone with my phone on the deck. And they were walking me through how to change and pull out the light and then change the light bulb and put it back in to see if it was just a simple fix like that, or if it was something where we needed more of a technician.
Did you get electrocuted?
No, I turned the breaker off.
She turned the power off to the pool, to the lights.
That was step one.
These are bougie problems that
That's
people
right.
have, right? The
Yeah.
lights in the pool don't work.
But I'm just saying, like,
Right.
but as a, but I mean, like, Kent, like, your daughter is going to get married soon.
Yeah,
And
it's an
if-
emergency.
And if something like that was happening and you know, and Ashley was not able to have like the experience that she was wanting, you as a dad would feel the pressure to fix it. It's your,
Boy.
you know what I mean?
Mm.
Listen, I'm trying to whore everybody out. Like, hey, if you're going to do the food for this, we can put a banner up in the place.
You're trying to get sponsors?
I'm trying to do it like
Sponsorships?
today's food brought to you.
A true, spoken like a true basketball coach, true sports
That's
dad. That's what
hilarious.
that is.
I'll put it on my jacket like an NASCAR.
But I'm just saying, if something
I
went
like that
awry
style.
during like in the wedding festivities were about to kick off, you would feel
Flowers don't
Yeah,
show
a
up.
need
The
to
flowers
do
don't show
something.
up.
Yeah, so I think an emergency is that immediate call to action because I think there's a fear of loss of something,
Mhm.
right? If you're not fearing that you're going to lose something, revenue,
Life-
equipment,
life or limb.
life or limb, then I don't know if it's an emergency. That's why, as we talk about, what your customers, they think they're going to lose something.
Lose their house,
They're,
right?
they're going to lose their business. They're going to lose their house.
Right.
Oh my God. I'm looking at my books. I don't see $500,000. There's that fear of loss. And then because you're the professionals, I mean, a surgeon goes, just relax, whatever.
Right.
Right. And that's where you rely on the professionals. Listen, so when Spencer was born, right? So my first child, right? And all that I know is that it comes out quick. There's the kid.
Yep.
Right? I don't know this whole I didn't pay attention in the Lamaze classes, whatever, right? So I'm like, you have a baby? I'm having a baby on TV. If it's a half hour, it's like, that's my concept. So like Alice is like, I need to push, and so I run out to the nurse's station. I'm like, oh my God, she says she needs to push. Okay. Tell her
Right.
not to, is what she said. I'm like, what? Just tell her not to. I
Hold
run
it
back in
in.
there. I run back in. You see my wife, we're 24, 25 years old. We're like, oh my God. She said, don't push, and so I was like, I need to push, So then the nurse comes in and goes, oh, okay. Okay. Let's just breathe through this. Give a little, and I'm like, I think it's going to come shooting out. I'm in a state of emergency.
Right.
The nurse is like,
Yeah.
hey, follow my lead here. So we're pulling the bottom of the bed out, the stirrups. And again, my mind coming right out. She pushes once the kid doesn't come out. I'm like, what happened? Right.
You didn't do it right.
Oh, no.
Is what I'm doing. And then
You pushed the wrong way.
and then they get the doctor in, right? And the doctor is great. The doctor comes in, he's got khaki pants on, little boat shoes, right? And
Solid.
and a golf shirt. And he comes in with his hands in his pocket, looks between her legs, and says, all right, I'm gonna go brush my teeth.
Brush his teeth? That's what he said. Brush his teeth?
Hand to God. And I go, what? Where this kid's coming from, I don't think it's gonna care what your breath smells like. And he goes,
Hit me.
and again, I'm thinking, what? I don't get it, right? So the professionals aren't in a state of emergency because you understand. I was in a state of emergency because I'm like, holy,
It's coming. Let's
here-
go.
Yeah. Here it is, right?
Right.
Because that's the way it was on TV.
Hey, better than
Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, Rich was kind of panicked, like when I went into labor
Yeah.
with Eli. But since I had already done it once with when I had Gavin, so I was like, I kind of knew what what
Yeah.
was going to happen. And he's like, and Rich is like looking at me, like I'm like, okay, I'm like, it's time. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's time. Like, tell the nurse to come in. It's time. And he's like, okay. And he comes in. The nurse comes in, and she's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, totally sure. And she checks me, and then she's like, oh, yeah, you're right. So she goes to get the doctor, and then the doctor comes in, and the doctor's just standing there with her like hands like crossed, like looking, like push. And then Rich is like, she's not. like she got to uncross her hands. Like she's got,
Right.
Where's the
I'm with
catcher's
you, bro.
glove?
Yeah.
Where's the catcher's glove?
and then like
That's
the
right.
anesthesiologist pokes his head in from the epidural and he's like, everything good? You feeling it? Not feeling it? We good? And I'm like, I'm good. And then we just carry on and Rich is like, am I the only one that's freaking out? Like,
Oh,
what's,
yeah.
like what's
Yes.
happening?
Oh, the only one.
Like what's happening?
The only
Right.
one. Yeah. Yeah.
So then, by the time we get to Lucy, the fourth child, I'm like, all right, we got time. Nope.
Shit, we don't have time. That's so funny.
But that's what I'm saying. The state of emergency, I think, is when you're unsure, you haven't planned, and
Right.
you're afraid of loss.
Right.
Afraid of loss,
Yeah.
I think, is a big key point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? that still goes through my head.
Honest to God.
But it's, I guess, yeah, because like when I have clients explaining things to me and like the state of like the situation or what they did or didn't do or whatever, and they're like, and I'm like, okay, and then they're like, you're so calm. Are you sure? Like you're so calm. And I'm like, yeah, I listened to what you had to say. I understand the problem. This is how I'm gonna fix it. Here's the steps. And if I'm wrong, then here's my backup plan. And we'll see what happens.
Right.
And they're like, okay.
But that's why they
Like,
hire you, because the numbers don't speak to them the same way they speak to you. That's why they hire you.
The process, right? Like
I
I don't know how to get 6 feet of water out of my
Right.
basement.
I'm outside trying to siphon it out of my 50-foot garden hose.
oh yeah, I would just take Gerald's tank drainer out. And just,
Oh my god, I could just see you like with the siphon literally trying to suck water.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work at all.
But I don't know. Yeah, no, I'd probably just call Dawn and sell my house.
That's it.
Just sell it with the water in it.
Yeah,
then
as is
I-
sale.
I'd buy 80 pounds of cat litter to try to dry everything up.
Soak it up. Oh my!
What is he doing?
It's a good thing, yeah, that we do this work, right? Yeah.
So speaking of all these kind of things, have you guys ever been like, so like you're, for the most part, have a rational train of thought. You're pretty even keel with things, but then when the actual emergency hits, like, do you lose like all sense of like
No,
everything, or no? You still maintain.
no, I'm actually
Like
the
when
opposite.
it's like your emergency, not
Yeah.
somebody else's.
No,
Yeah.
I'm actually the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, so like my parents raised me. My dad's a firefighter. I'm a
yeah.
firefighter. Like I was just raised in these my mom's an engineer, so
Yeah.
like we look at things. I just look
Problem
at things.
solving all the
Yeah,
time.
all the time. I'm just oh, that happened. All right, here's what we got to do. Boop, 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 to fix it. So no, I actually, I'm a very energetic person, right? But come a real emergency, I actually like calm way down, and I'm like, all right, let's go. Boop, boop, doop, bop, bip, bop. My dad and I got lost in the woods tracking a deer one time.
You told that story.
Yeah, and like just to be able to like calmly go, all right, let's sit down. Oh, just gotta wait. Oh, there's a car. All right, we're heading that way. Right? Like no emergency, even though we're lost in the woods.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's just like when I worked in construction and one of the guys called me and he's like, so and so cut their finger off on the job. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, why are you calling me though? And they're like, well, what do we do? I don't know. Take him to the hospital. Well, which hospital?
Call the ambulance.
They're like, well, which hospital? I'm like, the closest hospital. Like, what? I don't understand what we're doing here.
Well, okay.
They completely shut down. Like
So,
as soon as but his finger didn't get cut off. Just so we're all clear.
So I almost cut off
No,
my
it's just
finger.
like the meaty part right here of your thumb.
Okay. So
So he was using like a concrete saw and it kicked back and the guard didn't go down, so it cut his finger.
You see that one? That was a angle grinder. It
Yeah.
almost hit it literally hit the bone. That was last year. And I just wrapped it up and carried after
I think I remember.
After 3 weeks of a Band-Aid on my finger, Carrie's like, is your finger okay? That Band-Aid's been on a lot longer than you normally keep Band-Aids on.
But it's just like, I feel like, like in sometimes like emergency situations, like certain like people, like no matter how like even keel and rational they are in the normal world, once an emergency sets in, it's like they just
totally lose it.
fear panic, and then they like
Some people
can't
I feel do that, yeah.
function. And I'm like,
Totally.
you know, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've probably done it before. I mean, like I got a call that one of my family members was in, that had gotten taken to the hospital from their job. And I had been to that hospital. I don't even know how many times in my lifetime, but all of a sudden, like
Couldn't figure out.
I couldn't remember like how to get there.
Yeah. I'm sure I have done it before.
Dawn says that she'd call.
I'd call you if I cut my finger out.
Well, I mean, you live
Dawn,
like.
what is she gonna do?
Well, Dawn lives almost like across the street from me, so
that works.
I could go over there and get her to the hospital, I guess.
Every time I've gotten stitches since I was started dating or married to Carrie, I say Carrie to everybody else, but when I call her name, this is the most of different that I do. If I get badly injured, is if I call her name, it's not Carrie, it's Care. Right? On a normal basis. Hey, Care, come on. You want to go, do this, do that? But if I get injured bad, Carrie, and that's it. And she'll come around and she'll, what'd you do? What happened? Because all I have to do is say her full name. So that's the only thing did she know how to put your finger back on, Dawn? Dawn's saying that she's going to call you. And here you go. See, here's Carrie commenting. Oh
my God, I didn't know someone broke in your house.
Not the one here. This was when we were living in Chicago.
Oh
yeah, somebody did. So I had to kick them out of our house. Somebody was breaking into our house in Chicago, and I was like, no, nobody's breaking in. And she's like, Joe, somebody's literally breaking into our house. And finally, I woke up to the guy slamming on the door, like kicking the door in. And I walked over and I'm like, oh, fine. So he went to the back of the house. I followed him to the back of the house on the inside. And then as soon as I heard him open the door, actually kick the door in, I went out and kicked him out of the house. He was high as shit. His pupils were saucers.
No, I watched, oh my God, The Night Stalker. When the documentary when Rich was in Colorado, and I was
that's your problem.
I was convinced that he was still like out there. I mean, he technically is, but I was convinced. Well, actually, no, I think he got killed.
I don't know.
I don't know. But anyways, I was convinced that it was going to happen. And
Rich is gone.
Yeah. And so like I told I went into Gavin's room and I woke him up because it was like 2:00 in the morning. Woke up Gavin. I'm like, look, me, you, and Eli go into a hotel and we'll just deal with this when Rich gets back home. And he's like, what? And
Mom, the doors are locked.
I'm like, the problem is I watched the documentary with the curtains open and it was dark out. Like I should have closed the curtains.
I should have closed the curtains.
I feel like when it's not like my emergency and it's like something around me, I could be pretty calm and fine.
But
like
it's like you getting into your head.
Right. Like if one of my kids got hurt or something, I could deal with it. I could be calm. We could get through it.
Right.
But like if it was like
the potential for you to get hurt.
Yeah, I feel like I like fear panic. Like what we were talking about in the green room.
Yeah.
Like how I was up on the monkey bars and then I fear panicked because I was on top of the monkey bars. And then my friend had to go get my mom
to come and get you off the monkey bars. Even though you had gone up and down a million times.
Right.
Before. Now it's all of a sudden.
Because I almost fell off. So now it's like not funny.
Right. Now it's actually now I see the risk.
Right.
I see the risk and I just felt my butthole up in my head.
Right.
And I'm like, oh crap, the risk is here.
Yeah, because like me and my friend like Janet, we used to sunbathe on the roof of her house in Streamwood. And it was fine until like I almost fell off one day and I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not, I don't know.
We'll sunbathe from down there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it matters like the 20 feet. I'm still going to get tan.
That 20 feet got me that much darker of a shade.
Yeah.
I don't get panicky in emergency situations. I just don't. I don't know why. I've just been raised that way. My dad was a firefighter, and like when I was in elementary school, he was volunteer paid on call, and he'd get a call with my older brother and I, and we'd be off in the truck with him and ride right up on the scene, and he'd park his truck right in between. And he'd have one of those lights, the blue lights that he'd whip out and dunk, magnetic it to the thing. Oh, my brother and I love that. But we were doing that when I was like 5-6 years old. and we pull right up, and it be loud as ever, so loud. And we just sit in the truck and be watching, or we occasionally could get out and get onto the fire trucks and stand on or in the fire trucks and watch. But we'd just be watching as the firefighters run around, do their thing, put out the fire. Yeah. And we're just right there on scene with them.
Well, it's like Gavin's very calm in emergency situations. Like when he was working at Office Max, when Mary Shep used to work there.
And the deer came flying through.
Right. Like Gavin was right there in the front of the store at the printer counter, and the deer was like busted in the window right in front of the printer counter. And then Mary's like, yeah, Gavin just got on the radio and was like, hey, Mary, there's a deer in the store. Like totally like calm and just kept going about whatever he was doing. Like
that's awesome.
Like that wasn't like the weirdest thing that could have ever happened. Like this bloody deer like running in the store.
We're taking our guys. We got to do our wrap up in a second. What do we learn? I'm taking our guys, and I've taken some buddies to Beaver Island, and there's neighboring islands around there, and they're uninhabited. And so you get dropped off on these uninhabited islands. Like you have to be a little more leery of what an emergency could be, because you may not get off that island for 3 or 4 hours, right? Or it may take, 2 hours to get you, minimum 2 hours to get you to a hospital.
Do you guys bring like first aid kits and stuff when you go to like those kind of places, or is there like those shacks or whatever, those hunt shacks or whatever they call them?
There is one.
What are they called?
There's one hunting cabin shack, or
right, where people trappers but it's cabin. Like a communal thing where people like bring stuff, like add stuff, take stuff, whatever kind of thing. A
DNR cabin is what's over there.
Yeah,
and then there's a hunter's cabin. But yes, there's two technically cabins. One's kind of public, one's private, but yeah, there's supplies over there. We bring all of our supplies, but last time I've been there, we didn't take first aid kits. Maybe we should this time. God. I mean, I always have to be honest, if you're bleeding that bad, that one, you probably don't need a band. If you don't need a Band-Aid, you're fine, right? Like to me, most bleeding will stop after a little bit.
Why don't you just like cauterize it?
I don't lick it. I don't know.
You can't lick it. That keeps it flowing.
Well, whatever. Then no. I don't know. I cauterize it. Burn it. I'm not burning myself. That's how that one happened.
If I was bleeding that bad, I think I would.
Then you can use like super glue. Is what I'd do.
Oh, you just keep super glue in your pocket, but not a Band-Aid?
Super glue is great for everything. Yes. Yes. Well, first off, super glue works way better than a Band-Aid because it works for bigger cuts and longer and deeper cuts. So goddamn to super glue. I will have super
glue and duct tape.
And then a shirt, you can rip a shirt, so you got like you can tie a tourniquet. Like I don't know. I don't need a first aid kit.
Well, we're in the last 2 minutes of the show.
All right.
So we'd like to hear from anybody out there. What did you learn today?
What we learned.
What'd you learn about emergencies, or something interesting about the show that you are gonna now burned into your brain? I guess something that I feel like it's nice to know that you and Kent kind of have the same philosophy and viewpoint on emergencies. Like there's not really anything that bad. Like an emergency, like yes, there is like emergencies, but
bad
like
things can happen, emergencies can happen, but
I guess it's just like being able to identify and differentiate what's a real emergency and not an emergency, because I always thought I was kind of like an asshole because I always just view everything not so like it's not that bad. Like we can figure it out. It's not that bad, but it's good to know that other people feel the same way in there. I guess Dawn said that she learned that she's buying super glue. So what did you learn, Joe?
I learned that and this is actually from the green room, that your mom fell out of an airplane and played Plinko on the way down. And your dad didn't think your stepdad didn't think it was that big of I won't say that part, but like it wasn't that like it wasn't how's it going, right? Like,
well, he had to keep it quiet because he was
he removed the railing.
He was the
cause of the issue, but But
yeah.
I learned a great story about your mom. That Linda played Plinko out of an
There you go.
airplane one
That is
time,
good.
And she
that
didn't wind up on YouTube or TikTok.
And she didn't
That's
wind
good.
up on YouTube or TikTok, which is pretty impressive these days to do something, fall out of something and not. Yeah. And I learned the actual definition of
Emergency.
an emergency, right? Yeah, it truly is where loss can happen.
So what'd you learn, Kent?
Yeah.
That being in studio all day drinking coffee, that it's better to go potty before the show. Otherwise, I would have had a personal emergency here in the producer's booth. So that always to keep the different camera so I can walk out.
Yeah, and now we'll use this one. I like this one right here.
Oh man!
right.
So next week we have Robert Clark with Above Par coming on, and we're gonna do inside jokes.
Yeah.
So if anybody has hilarious inside jokes, this is going to be a very fun and funny show. And I'm going to preface this: do not take anything personal.
And on that show, you'll probably be able to see Robert handle my rucksack.
Yep.
Oh, hey, hey-o.
Hey.
Hey-o.
Sharing is caring in the studio.
That's right.
Amen. All right. Sounds good.
Hey, for all of us here at 21.6 the Net, thanks for getting caught in the net. Thanks for hanging out with In the Know with Steph and Joe every Friday at 3. Don't miss next week. It's going to be hilarious. And as a matter of fact, the door will be open to the studio. Yeah, we invite you in to share your inside jokes as well. But until then, folks, be good. But more importantly, be good to one another.